pro-Israel Republicans are having a tough time deciding whether or not Tucker Carlson poses a threat. In fact, some of them are concerned that the former Fox News host is considering a presidential run in 2028. And he does have a significant amount of popularity among conservative voters. So if that does happen, he would be a formidable opponent to any pro-Israel candidate. Nonetheless, I do want to talk a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes, because at the Republican Jewish Coalition Gala last November, so this is like about 6 months ago, 7 months ago, there was a palpable concern, a complete panic over anti-Semitism erupting from within the right wing in America. And Senator Ted Cruz at the time said the following: "In the last 6 months, I've seen more anti-Semitism on the right than I had in my entire life." That's hilarious, and I don't believe it. But nonetheless, without naming any names directly, Cruz then took shots at Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, with whom he had just had a pretty contentious and embarrassing debate with. That was the now notorious interview with Tucker Carlson, where Ted Cruz had a hard time answering questions about his unwavering support for a foreign country. Now, Cruz rounded out his complaints by saying this: "And as for me, I choose to stand with you, I choose to stand with Israel, and I choose to stand with America." But when the same group reconvened just this past weekend on Sunday, they struck a different tone, which I found fascinating. They might be emboldened by a series of AIPAC victories recently in various elections, primary elections, of course. That included the ousting of Thomas Massie. You also had the resignation of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was a pretty vociferous Israel critic toward the end of her congressional career. And then you have Joe Kent leaving the White House, resigning, which I don't think the Israel lobby had much to do with, but I'm sure they're very, very happy with that. Nonetheless, here's the CEO of the Republican Jewish Coalition. His name is Matt Brooks, and here's what he had to say just this past weekend.
"We have been strong and vocal in confronting the poisonous anti-Semitism and anti-Israel rhetoric coming from people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Nick Fuentes. Whether it comes from the far left or the far right, whether it's wrapped in America First language or dressed up as social commentary, anti-Semitism is anti-Semitism."
Anti-Semitism is when you hate a group of Jewish people because they're Jewish. When you discriminate against them, when you are okay with people harming them, whatever. It's when you are targeting a group of people based on their ethnicity, based on their race, based on their immutable characteristics. Zionism is a political belief. No one is born a Zionist. People are brainwashed into being Zionists, but they're not born to be Zionists. Just keep that in mind. After throwing shade at Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, he also went on to applaud the Republican Party on its handling of Israel's detractors. Take a listen.
"Being anti-Israel in today's Republican Party is not, unlike the Democratic Party, a path to success."
It needs to be, though. It needs to be. So the American people have a decision to make here. And I do think it makes sense to, for the first time, be a single issue voter. Do you want to live in a sovereign country or not? Do you want our elected representatives, our lawmakers, our president to consistently side with Israel and its interests at the detriment of the American people? But it's a simple question. I don't give a damn about Israel, just like do I care about other countries? Sure. But not as much as I care about my own. And I do hate Israel. How could you not? Especially as an American, especially as someone who has carried the brunt of what Israel does in the Middle East, whether you're Palestinian, whether you're an Iranian, Lebanese, Syrian. I mean, it's just, the list goes on, not Iraq. The list goes on and on and on and on. So yeah, a lot of people hate Israel. That doesn't mean they hate Jewish people. Just because you insist on calling it a Jewish state, just because you insist on trying to build an ethno state, doesn't mean that all Jews are implicated in that. And it doesn't mean that all Jewish people buy into the Zionist slop that clowns at this conference have bought into. Hating Israel is not the same as being an anti-Semite. So, Brooks also bragged to raucous applause about the RJC spending $5 million in the race against Thomas Massie. But don't tell Shabbos Kestenbaum that, right? Because Shabbos would have you believe that the Israel lobby had no role at all, right? And then you hear Brooks bragging about it. He described the experience into the race as a right worth having and a victory worth celebrating. And a right worth having meaning right-wing politicians who get down on their knees and pleasure Israel. That's the right that he's talking about. But some on the right are not as convinced. And in fact, some are worried that Israel's critics haven't been sufficiently purged from the Republican Party, and they specifically cite Tucker Carlson. So Carlson has been seen as one of Israel's most, vocal critics, and I think that's a fair label. He has been very vocal for good reason. I agree with a lot of what he has to say about Israel these days. And he did experience an uptick in popularity because guess what? The American people like truth tellers, and they can usually suss out inauthenticity. In the case of Tucker Carlson, he's pretty authentic when he's talking about Israel. Others argue that, so I'll give you an example of some of the people speaking out. Oren Siegel, the ADL's vice president of counter-extremism and intelligence. Let's all pause for laughter. There's nothing more extreme in the country right now than Zionists. He said in an interview with JTA that his organization's biggest worry regarding Carlson is not merely his relationship with any conservative or elected officials, but also the normalization of his views.
The other night, I was scrolling through Shop TYT when I saw our awesome No Money for Wars hat and thought, I need that. I click add to cart, ready to dig out my wallet, but it's on the other side of the room. But right there in checkout, glowing like a beacon, is that glorious purple Shop Pay button. One tap and boom, order placed. That's the magic of Shopify, the platform behind millions of businesses and 10% of US e-commerce, including our own Shop TYT. That purple Shop Pay button is the best converting checkout on the planet. It means fewer abandoned carts and more actual sales. And if you run a business, Shopify makes it super simple to build a beautiful site with hundreds of templates and to blast email and social campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling. It's like having a full marketing team behind you. So do what we did, use Shopify. See fewer carts go abandoned and more sales go with Shopify and their Shop Pay button. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/TYT. Go to shopify.com/TYT. That's shopify.com/TYT.
Okay, let me be clear. Tucker Carlson did not normalize these views. Israel's behavior normalized these views. You think people are sitting around waiting to hear what Tucker Carlson tells them to think? Or could it be that the American people have viewed endless videos of Israel's slaughter campaigns in sovereign countries or in Palestinian territory? Israel's behavior has normalized the perspective that people like me share on this show almost on a daily basis at this point in regard to Israel. Just stop slaughtering kids, stop killing innocents, stop trying to steal land. It's not that hard, but they can't help themselves. So if you're gonna do that, then you're gonna have to deal with the criticism. But here's the thing, Zionists want their cake and eat it too. They wanna do whatever they want. Endless suffering carried out by the IDF, endless slaughter carried out by the IDF. And that's not good enough. On top of that, we all have to sit around and talk about how great Israel is and never criticize them. No, I don't play that game. And most Americans don't. We like to express ourselves. So pattern recognition is real. And the pattern I've recognized is that the Israeli government is full of war criminals, bloodthirsty, greedy, and doesn't value human life. Unless we're talking about other Zionist Jews. Not Jews, just Zionist Jews. So, Others argue that Tucker's influence within the right has begun to wane. So look, Randy Fine, who's a disgraceful, disgusting hog of a congressman, reminded the audience at the RJC event held in Manhattan on Sunday that in his speech to the RJC in November, he'd called Carlson the most dangerous anti-Semite in America. Now he said, I don't know that that's true anymore. Now Fine has a different person in his crosshairs. He now believes the country's most dangerous anti-Semite is Zohran Mamdani, New York City's anti-Zionist mayor. In contrast, he said Carlson's impact had only plummeted in the past half year. Quote, I think that brand has been destroyed in the last 6 months, he wrote, attributing the change to politicians like himself, calling Carlson out, as well as the damage he has done to himself. Whatever you need to tell yourself to feel better. But Fine's assessment could be way off. In fact, I think it is way off because despite expressing no interest, Tucker Carlson has floated the possibility of running for president in 2028. And look, during an interview with Russian television just last week, Candace Owens, said that she would support him if he threw his name in the hat. He says, I would love for him to run. I would gratefully get behind someone like Tucker Carlson. And, look, Polymarket is not a good indicator of what's actually going on. So I'm not even gonna go to that. I thought about it. There was a Polymarket story about how, bunch of people in this betting market are betting that, he will secure a victory in the 2028 presidential campaign. Or primary, I should say. Still, if Tucker decided to run, he has to contend with serious hurdles. As the RJC CEO, Matt Brooks, said, there is only one party where American Jews can be proudly pro-Israel, and that is the Republican Party. And those who imperil that will have to come through the RJC first. Well, I hope we all get to experience and witness that fight. I don't know if we will. I don't know if Tucker Carlson's gonna run in 2028. But I'm sorry, we don't have a single party where you can safely be anti-Israel. The Democrats aren't as cucked as the Republicans are, at least rhetorically speaking, but they're pretty cucked through their actions, aren't they? I mean, how you can name a handful of Democrats who would go against Israel and everything Israel desires. I don't even know if I can name a handful. I know Ro Khanna is one of them. I know that Rashida Tlaib is another one. Ilhan Omar is another one. I'm supposed to pretend that AOC would push back against Israel aggressively. I don't believe it, but okay. Slim pickings, right? So I don't think these people realize how delusional they are. I don't think they realize that everything they do runs counter to what their agenda is. They want Americans to love Israel, but all of their actions, all of their behavior, including pushing pretty aggressively to censor Americans who are critical of Israel, makes Americans hate Israel more. But they're too dumb to realize it and they keep doing it. And honestly, for my purposes, I think that's great. Keep doing it. Because I'd love to live in a sovereign country, ideally one that has no relationship with Israel whatsoever.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.